Welcome to the Ron and John Show, brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, and I'm Ron.
And I am John. This is the Ron and John Show. Hey, at the Ron and John Show, we're known coast to coast like butter and toast. We can make ISIS surrender or die, or make even the nerdiest guy look kind of fly. We can drink like we've been singing all night long, and we can sing like we've been drinking all night long. So if you're looking for a good time, don't you delay. Tune into the Ron and John Show. Me and this Ranger, we lead the way. Boom!
And welcome back to another Ron and John Show, where I am Ron.
And I am John. And we are live in Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado.
That's right.
With a very special guest here. As a matter of fact, we've had this guy. Is this the second time
he's
been on our show?
This is the second time.
That's right. How did we get fancy pants on the show twice here, you know? But our special guest today is the U.S. Space Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant Scott Stalker. Brother, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome,
good to have you. Good to have you guys both.
Now,
Welcome
I'm a little
to Space
confused
Command.
here because we had you on the show, one of our early shows.
Yeah.
And you were in Washington, D.C. at U.S. Cyber Command.
Yep.
Now, we're not in Cyber Command anymore. So tell me what's happened here since the last time you were on the show.
I've always said you leave one of two ways at this position. You either leave on the front page of Marine Corps Times, which I avoided, or you have a ceremony. And so my time was up there. I did just short of 30 months. Turned that over to Command Sergeant Major Cheryl Lyon, who is the first female combatant command CSEL, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
And an exceptional leader. Yeah, an exceptional leader. And, you know, like anyone that competes for these positions, I interviewed. General Raymond selected me, and here we are. So love it for a lot of reasons. Love the mission, the people, and I do not miss Washington, D.C. traffic. No more traffic. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got a question that's been kind of not bugging me, but it's like, what the heck is going on? We've got Space Force, we've got Space Command, a mixture in between. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier that you asked that, because it's very confusing for those that don't work in this building. So Space Force is a service. They do the organize, train, and equip just like the United States Army, Air Force, and so on and so forth. So they organize, train, and equip. They create Space Force individuals. Right now they don't have a specific term, and that's something that's being worked. And they supply those to the Joint Force.
That's why when we were over at 2nd Space Operations Squadron today, I didn't know how to address the troops. Yeah. They're wearing Space Force on the uniform, but are they an airman or whatever? You know, so I just said, "Hey, Space Warrior, what's going on, man?"
Yeah.
Or Space Invader. How about that one?
Space Invaders or Forces. No, probably not that.
Yeah. Well, I'll stay clear of that piece, but. So you know, Chief 𝘬𝘓𝘵 is the SEA for the Space Force, an exceptional leader who actually was dual-hatted in this position for a while. And then you have Space Command. So we are now a combatant command. One of the things many people don't know is we're actually a geographic combatant command. And so we have, from 100 kilometers up, we have an AOR that we have our mission. And so the mission here is pretty simple, and if you really look at it, it's the 4 Ds. I'll talk about it in a second. You can hear NCOs in every piece of it. Defend. How do you defend our space structures, our infrastructure, our capabilities? We develop joint lethal warriors. That's NCO business, developing. Deter aggression. How do you deter aggression? You do that by being trained, ready, and lethal.
Yeah.
We might have done something like that this morning, right?
Absolutely.
And then lastly, we deliver space capability to the Joint Force. And so that's the difference here is we are the warfighting component, and we have Space Force service members here, Air Force, Marines, so on and so forth, just like every other combat command. But thank you so much for asking that, because I get confused for someone that's in the Space Force, and I point him to Chief 𝘬𝘓𝘵 every time.
Right. No, it makes sense now. It makes sense now how it's aligned and how it brings it all in.
So, brother, we've had a phenomenal visit here
we have.
on Peterson and Schriever Air Force Base today. And, you know, we had a great PT session this morning.
Yep.
You know, Ron and I were a little worried because the altitude and everything.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, we had Sergeant Major Eric McCrae out there, and just we got after it, man. So it was a pretty good session. Huh?
It was phenomenal, and, you know, thank you guys both for being there and leading by example. I wish more senior enlisted leaders and retirees, if you will, took the time to do that. I think if you get that in, the rest of your day, man, at least you got that. You may have some challenges, you may have a rough meeting or whatever. They can't take that away from you. So it was brutal, it was tough, and the altitude is something that I'm still getting used to. But it was great. I
was.
appreciate it. It was really fun, and to have Sergeant Major McRae out there with us, you know, it just added to it. It was
What a great warfighter leader, man. Eric is. You know, Eric is just. He's a stud, man.
He is. He's exceptional. I hope that he has an opportunity to interview for these joint opportunities and others. That's out of my lane.
Yeah.
But if I'm asked, I'll certainly push him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. And then, you know, so tomorrow, too, on the theme of PT, we're starting here at Space Command our first combat PT.
Oh, okay.
Sergeant Major McRae is going to take the folks here. As you know, I get on a plane here in a few hours, and I'll be out at Vandenberg.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have Space Command out at Vandenberg and here at Peterson dual PT, and it's really getting after our warfighting ethos, not just putting it on a bumper sticker, but showing it by getting out there.
Can a couple guys that look like they've been on a 3-week drunk come out and join that PT?
We'd love to
tomorrow?
have you. We'd love to have
that's
you.
it.
Boom!
We'd
We're
love to have
going to
you.
be there.
We're going to be there. So
Space Force PT.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
no. Space Command
Space
PT.
Command. See,
Yep.
there
See,
I
look
go.
at you.
Right?
There I
Yeah.
go. You know.
Yeah.
Space.
But we will
Command
have Space
PT.
Force service members out there.
See, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and,
still
you
a
know,
little fuzzy, but okay.
Yeah. You know, then we visited Second Space Operations Squadron.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal organization. And when we talk about, you know, defending our homeland, here's an organization that not a lot of people know about, but they are doing some wonderful things. We had a wonderful brief. And the commander over there, Colonel
Yeah.
Schriever. We're on
Colonel
Schriever Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And Colonel Schriever is commanding it. And that ain't a coincidence, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you think of the grandfather, the key leader that helped develop this domain and his vision for what space would be like in the future. You're talking about, you know, General Schriever.
Right.
And so to have his grandson here as a commander leading, it's incredible. And you know, obviously we honored him with the name of a base, but everything he talked about. You really talk about this contested domain, warfighting domain. A few years ago, we couldn't even say that publicly. So everything that Schriever talked about in the past, we're seeing it kind of become part of the now, not just the future. Yeah.
You know, and then, Ron, we met Chief Raznick. Was that his name?
Chief Rosnick.
Rosnick.
Yeah.
Just a phenomenal space leader
Yeah.
for the last 22 years. And one thing we didn't know about, he is a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
And here he is, a Chief Master Sergeant, getting after it. 22 years in the
22
space
years in the
domain.
space domain, yeah.
But I feel like, you know, and I kind of hit him up because we've been focusing on, you know, defeating terrorism and 20 years of being in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, places like that. Now all of a sudden, space is a priority, and the space warfighting domain is a priority. And I could just tell by the look on Roz's face there, it was like, oh, now y'all call me, okay? Where were you 20 years ago when I was operating in this contested warfighting domain, you know, and to see him and all those folks over there, it was phenomenal.
It was outstanding, and that brief, you know, the thing that really resonated with me that I took away from not you know, the technology and everything aside, which is you know top tier, but the care, the understanding, and the commitment to the people. They really, most of that brief was talking about the balance between their you know, people on the floor manning these systems and the technology. What's their burnout rate look like? What's going on with their families and everything like that? And it was something that was very key and important to them versus just we have the mission, but our people are also our mission. And that's something that I've experienced that it resonates through Space Command, and obviously it seems to be with Space Forces kind of the direction that they're going and forming this new.
It's not just a bumper sticker. It's sincerely what we're working towards here, to have our spouses involved. Next week we have a key spouse engagement with both General Dickinson's spouse and my spouse and the key spouses. But you know, there's a time and a place to put in the hours. And usually it's a threat-based, you know, when there's a threat or there's opportunities that we've got to do some things, okay. But what you've got to do as a leader is provide that context to the troops and let them know, hey, this is why we're going to stay a little late. But we really focus on that balance. And we just had a 4-day weekend. I know in D.C. they didn't because I was in the Pentagon Friday when everyone here was off. But that balance is sincere, and it starts at the top. General Dickinson really pushes that down to make sure, hey, why are you still here past 17:30? What are you doing here? And it might be a good answer. Maybe you need to be, but you probably don't. Especially in a position where I'm at as a leader, where I have a mobile SIPR device. I have mobile comms. For the most part, I can be reached anywhere. I have 2 young girls. I have a wife. And so I don't need to be in here 24/7 doing more and more and more. I need to lead by example and spend some time with my family. So it really is, it's refreshing here. I think a lot of the reason why I couldn't do that in the Washington, D.C. area is because of the tempo out there. You can't get ahead. I can walk home. How beautiful is that? I can walk, to work. And so there is a true work and life balance here.
Yeah, that's awesome to see.
So Scott, you were big on this at U.S. Cyber Command, and that's that physical part, of being a warrior. Why is it? There will be some people out there that think in U.S. Cyber Command or U.S. Space Command, why do we need physically fit warriors if they're manning terminals or they're operating in a domain where they are working more from a computer or something like that? Why is that so important?
Yeah. So the science will tell you why it's important. It's easy to see that a more physically fit individual doesn't tire out as quick, and it is true. For the most part, we're doing command and control. We're doing communications behind a terminal.
Yeah.
But you're doing that for 12 hours a day. You're on shift. You may be working odd hours. Being able to get physically fit, to rest and recuperate, leads to a better, more lethal warrior. And so today, we're not in a space war as you would think in the movies, where we're using lightsabers and we're going at it in that sort of manner. But space is truly a contested domain, and so we need fit and lethal warriors here, so that we're not making mistakes on the 11th hour. Someone's too tired and they do something, and it's bad news for the adversary or vice versa. So we're going to continue to push this here, as long as I'm here, and you're going to see leaders like myself and Sergeant Major McRae and the other leadership here out leading by example, not just putting it out there and saying, okay, now you guys go PT.
Yeah. Ron, then we went to the shoot house, man. Tell us about our visit at the shoot house.
So that was incredible as well. We got to see some de-escalation. We got to see some stuff when things get escalated. And what was interesting is they were, what I liked about it is they're very proactive in thinking of different scenarios that could be potential threats. With what's going on, whether that be a disgruntled employee, so on and so forth. And then they actually train and physically train toward that. Then we jumped into the, what's that? I forget the simulator there, the name of it, but it's a video where you have different scenarios and, someone's in their vehicle and not showing their hands and whatnot. John, he got stuck shooting the old man, unfortunately.
I know. They put Marlon Perkins in my scenario. The guy should be out running the wild kingdom, but I had to put 2 in his chest, man. Hey. What kind of outfit are you running here, Stalker?
I can tell you this, video or not, John did not want to shoot that old man.
I know. It's like shooting my grandfather,
So, man.
But what it also showed is how quickly things can escalate. Right. For one instance, it's you're having a conversation. The next thing, it goes from milliseconds of when your life could be threatened. And those their professionalism as far as how they handle the threat, de-escalating, their control, I thought was incredible. Not being training around law
those
enforcement
defenders,
like
those
that.
security forces, or our military police. Those cold professionals that don't let emotion drive their decision making or their escalation or de-escalation process. Because I was watching that one defender when he was going through the scenario, and he was calm and just cool as a cucumber. And I was standing behind him like, you need to shoot this MFer, all right? Or you need to put a healthy coat of scunion on this asshole.
It's a perfect example of how technology allows us to do tough and realistic training. And you can do sets and reps, and so you made a mistake, roger that, let's get back at it. Instead of, doing it in a real scenario where you're, God forbid, you're actually shooting someone. And so we can provide different scenarios. An example is, my 3rd day here on base, bringing in my sexy minivan, I got the family, and they pulled me over for a random inspection. And then they saw who I was, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, we'll let you go. I said, no, we're going to do this the right way. What do you need? We're not special as leaders. We'll maintain the standard. They're very, very professional here. And that's because they use the technology. They get out there and they do that a lot, and they have great leadership, just like most organizations. When you have great leadership who lead by example, you tend to have great teammates.
You mentioned earlier as far as kind of like area of operations, so to speak. Now, just for our audience and for those that may not have an idea of what that looks like. When you say space, this is going to sound silly, but
Yeah.
it's not just space above the United States.
Right.
Right? That's
Yeah.
not our territory.
Yeah.
What is, when we
Yeah.
say space, where do we operate?
Yeah, so a lot of this comes back to historically, you look at the U2 mission and how we were, I can't remember the exact date, excuse me, but we had our pilot shot down over Russia.
Yeah,
Gary
yeah,
Powers.
Gary Powers, yeah.
Yeah.
So when that happened, shortly after we obviously had objects in space. And so internationally, we defined it as 100 kilometers and above is international space. And so you can fly over, that's not controlled land. Obviously, you're not going to have the United States and then infinite into nothing. And so internationally, it's defined as 100 kilometers and above, roughly 60 miles and above. And there's reasons for that, because anything short of that, gravity tends to pull it back down, and so you'd have to have, and I'm not going to get into the math, but you'd have a little bit of energy to push it back up and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
where in low Earth orbit and higher, 100 kilometers and above is our AOR. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
It. Makes sense. Don't want stuff falling on your head.
Yeah.
You certainly don't. You certainly don't. Yeah.
You know, and one thing I was impressed with today is our host,
Yeah.
Chief Master Sergeant Boston Alexander, kind
Yeah,
of the garrison
yeah,
guy on
yeah.
Peterson, and his knowledge as a joint warfighter. Here's a guy, a former Air Combat Command guy,
Yep.
and he was talking us through
Oh,
space
man,
as a
yeah.
warfighting domain and everything. I was just highly impressed. So that kind of lends me to a question for you and General Dickinson in terms of building U.S. Space Command, the leader development kind of process that you're going to have
Yeah.
to make sure that your officers and your non-commissioned officers or petty officers are staying on the cutting edge of understanding space as a warfighting domain. How do you all plan to get after that?
So there's a few ways we do, and you're right, Chief Alexander is exceptional, and he knows
Yeah.
this domain very well. One of the things we're looking at in the headquarters is not just bringing in space professionals,
Yeah.
and I say this, and I want to caveat it, but we're looking at bringing in warfighters, and more from a traditional warfighters, because space professionals are warfighters, and so our Chief of Staff is an F-35 pilot. We
Yeah.
have our J-5 is a submariner. All of them bring different components and different domain awareness to the headquarters, and then bringing in space professionals as well, who will do a tour here, then go back to a different unit, so that we have that expertise here, and also it's our civilians who have a lot of
Yeah,
expertise
yeah.
in this domain, and then really it's our partnership, not just and don't think of just foreign partners, industry and academia. So
Yeah.
the boss was just out at MIT Lincoln Labs the other day, cutting edge technology, working with them, making sure we have that relationship. Industry, whether it's SpaceX or all of the other components that are out there, they're critical. They're critical to this. And so if we think that we can do this alone, we're fooling ourselves. And no one here in the headquarters does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Schriever, when we were over at Schriever,
Yeah.
Colonel Schriever showed us on the wall, and truly, U.S. Space Command is joint, interagency, intergovernmental,
Yeah.
and multinational.
Yep.
In the truest sense of it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So that was.
So that's where I'm going
impressive.
tomorrow to Vandenberg, which is the Combined Force Space Component Command. And so they have our foreign partners. They have industry on the watch floor.
Yeah.
And you think of that, this is, and I have served, you know this, I've served at the Defense Intelligence Agency, NSA Cyber Command, where everything is TS and above. Space is similar to that, very, very sensitive. But we've got to have our partners there.
Absolutely.
You've got to have industry that understands the threat, because they're building things for us.
Yeah.
And so if they go in blind and not understanding the threat, we're just going to have things in space that we later can't defend.
Yeah.
So it's critical. It really is. It's a focus of effort. Matter of fact, when I got this job, I actually my counterpart, who I have not met yet in Japan, wrote me a letter and congratulated me and welcomed me. So that partnership is huge. Yeah.
Awesome.
When we talk about where you were before in Cyber Command, and now you're here with in Space Command, is there is it still cyber that you're focused on, but more in this with space assets, and what's that look like as far as the difference between cyber here, I guess,
Yeah.
on the ground versus cybersecurity in space?
Yeah, so cyber is one of the threats to space, just like lasers, just like the electromagnetic spectrum and jamming, just like any attack on a ground-based platform that communicates to space. And so it's just a lane of the threat. So we've got to understand the entirety of the threat. But more and more, cyber is huge. And so our relationship, I think that's going to be critical to me being here, but it's critical to the component, is to have that relationship with Cyber Command. Certainly they have the cyber expertise. We're not going to have that resident cyber expertise. But when it comes to doing things with cyber in space, you're going to have the space expertise here. And so it's just a perfect relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, pushing toward that joint effort again here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the non-commissioned officers and petty officers that you have in U.S. Space Command, how would you vision, as this command continues to grow, those kind of folks, as they build this expertise in the space warfighting domain, how they could be best utilized in the future for growth and development? Where do you see,
I see
that kind of going?
Right, and so right now we don't actually have a lot either. I think
Yeah.
we have just short of 60 as we built. We're 1 year old as of August 29th, and so we're building that. But what I would love to see is you take, just like in the soft model where you have soft personnel in different components,
Yeah.
I'd love to see space expertise in the different components, in the different services, so that when we're talking about truly multi-domain warfare, all domain warfare,
Yeah.
you have that expertise. And more importantly, they understand the ground component, the sea component, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so it's really a maturation. I just happen to have been able to serve now in all of the domains. And so
Yeah.
I've been able to work in them all and have a true understanding from the ground up of what they do. That's kind of where I envision it. We have a little bit of that going today. We have what we call the integrated planning elements, Space Command, putting folks in the combatant commands, but for the most part, they're fairly senior individuals, not someone, as we're talking about, more development. So, you know, you've got an Army sergeant here. He'd have 3 or 4 years. He or she gets promoted as staff sergeant. Would love to see them go back to an infantry division in the United States Army, bring that space expertise, and then understand the ground component, and then maybe they come back to somewhere within the space and to continue to develop their expertise. That would be ideal for me. Or maybe even going out on recruiting, and then they can talk to individuals that want to join the services, and they can tell them what's really happening here.
Well, one other thing that I've seen and noticed ever since our visit started is that it continues to resonate, is that senior leadership wants everyone to know their purpose, the why. Not only of why space, but why it's important, all the way from from everything in between to that that ship on the sea, to that warfighter on the ground, wherever they are, and it seems to be like that's a mission. It's like we really want everyone to understand why. And in that brief today, the unclass side of it, my mouth, I mean, as a nerd myself, right? My mouth is just like dropped open, and I'm just like, this is incredible, because I had no idea the magnitude of what this, number one, what this facilities here do, but on the GPS side of when we look at the customer side of that, was something like 4 to 6 billion people, and that this services. And when you think about that, well, now how do you protect those assets, all those people? How do you define those threats? So when we're talking about that spectrum, I mean, it's almost like it's a lot, right? I mean, it is a lot.
It's huge.
But everyone is still trying to is still conveying. But this is why.
Yeah.
Right?
So space is not important unless you care about the global economy, unless you care about being able to communicate. So if you're interested in going back to the 1930s or the 1830s, then space may not be important. But we have a global economy that relies on space. International trade, communication. We would not be able to do the FaceTime. Well, we wouldn't be able to do this. Anything we rely on today, and then you take and you look at combat operations, precision guided munitions. How are we going to do command and control, SATCOM, all of that? And so it's critical, and it's critical for those that work in Space Command to be able to provide that context to those that may not understand it, because it's not just a bunch of things floating in space. We track actually just north of 26,000 objects in space. 26,000. How do you do that? It's tremendously challenging, but we have the professionals here to do that.
And they get after it well.
They do.
They do.
So this is the environment we have here today. On a daily basis, every service that is out there, to include special operations individuals, have been calling me, how do I get out here to Space Command? So we have no shortage of people wanting to get here. And I imagine as I have conversations with folks as they get orders to leave, they're going to be asking, hey, Master Guns, can you keep me an extra year, another year? And so we got to maintain that momentum. We got to maintain that energy and that enthusiasm, but we can't rest on that. We have got to be communicating with those that work in the ground, out at sea, air, and cyber, so that they fully understand what we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a vacation spot.
No,
Colorado
right.
Springs is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. But we come here to provide value, and we provide options to the Secretary of Defense and the President if necessary.
Oh no, it hasn't been a vacation. Y'all have been getting after it.
Well, you guys tried to kill me this morning, so that's yeah.
Well, hey, folks, you're watching the Ron and John show here, and so I want to ask you an opinionated question.
Okay.
Because we started talking about space back when you were in Defense Intelligence Agency senior enlisted leader when I was a SEAC, but it was like this distant concept, and then the president said, hey, we're going to create a space force, and then we came back and said, hey, we can do a space combatant command and we can do a space development agency and everything. My question is, especially from a couple of dog faces, that are accustomed to shooting people in the face, we're not getting into this game too late. Is it your opinion?
My opinion,
we getting in too late?
I think not only is it my opinion, but the facts will show that we still have space superiority. The United States does.
Okay.
I think we had to do this, though. If you look at how long the acquisition cycle takes, you have to have expertise and people focused on creating, using the technology to build things out, and then to have a force, both Space Command and then the individuals via the Space Force and other services that have expertise. You cannot grow a command sergeant major overnight. You can't grow a general overnight.
That's right.
And so we have to have a focus on this. We recognize it as a true warfighting domain, which is, to your point, back then we couldn't say that, at least publicly.
Right.
And that was our policy. Today we recognize it because our adversaries are taking actions there. Yeah. And so we have to have a focus on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
I was also thinking we have these different space organizations, right? SpaceX, you mentioned the industry side, but where the hell does NASA fit into this? Is that its own separate thing with its own different mission, or is there also some integration and some crossover?
Yeah, when's Larry Hagman going to show up? And I dream a genie and all this stuff, man.
Well, so NASA's obviously a government organization. We are in the Department of Defense, and so they are. You think of the experts. When we had the recent SpaceX launch, you had expertise, and actually both of the pilots had a military background. And then you had NASA doing some of the support with SpaceX, and so it's really part of that whole partnership piece in this. But we're focused on the defense side of this, whereas NASA's focusing on other areas. But it weaves together. We've got to have that partnership. We've got to work closely with them. One of the things, and I pulled this out because I wanted to talk about it. The head of NASA recently called out China's aggressive behavior and some of the actions that we're seeing there, and so he recognizes this because it can pose a challenge for NASA and others as we launch into space. We don't have really that international norms. We don't have things that say this is how you'll behave, similar to how we had this discussion about cyber. We don't have this is how you're going to act, and so on and so forth. And so NASA plays a critical role. Yeah.
Just a quick follow-on question on that. Do you think, being that the head of NASA called them out and said, hey, they're doing some dirty stuff over there, what's NASA's take on Space Command, Space Force? I would think they're like, finally we have some protection, up here. But has there been a little bit of any of this? Has it been all together?
Yeah, I think the smartest thing a senior enlisted leader can say sometimes, I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know, but I have not ever heard that. I would imagine at the senior levels of leadership, there's a great relationship. Yeah, but I honestly don't know. Yeah.
Hey, so let's get away from your job a little bit, and let's talk about one of the biggest tasks that you've had recently, and that's the drive from Stalker Manor. I understand you sold the house.
I did.
Okay.
Which is a whole different story, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, but you left Stalker Manor. You had Mallory and the girls and the dogs with you, and you drove all the way out here to Colorado Springs. How did that go for you, man? That had to be a tough mission.
So it was a two-phased operation.
Okay.
I first took the dogs out here. Me and the dogs. So 2 days we drove out. I had a babysitter watch the dogs, and they took care of them. I actually came here for a couple days to meet with Toby and to do a little bit of a turnover. Yeah. And then I flew back, and then we took our time. And I really thank General 𝘮𝑒𝘮𝑒, my previous leadership, and the leadership here that said, take your leave, relax. My goal was the phone is off, and we went up to Boston, visited relatives. Yeah. We went to Mount Rushmore. We just paused and said, you know what, let's take the girls for ice cream, even though that wasn't part of the plan. We just enjoyed ourselves. It was really, really good. And then we get here on base and have been taken care of from day one, whether it was temp lodging or the house we have across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and the dogs came out by yourself.
Yeah.
How was those conversations?
Well, so Max, so I have two English bulldogs. And we, as we were going through Kansas, we got a torrential rainstorm. It was so bad that we could barely go above 5 miles an hour. And Max goes wild when he has the windshield wipers. And so as I'm driving, focusing on the road, I'm doing this to Max, who's trying to tear up the, and Charlie's afraid, so she's in the front hiding. It's funny now. I was a nervous wreck at the time, and there was nowhere to turn off because you couldn't see if someone was still driving or anything. So I just followed the lights in front of me 5 miles an hour, and I'm elbowing the dog. But it was great. It was fun. I actually, in many ways, needed that mental break because these jobs, man, they're nonstop, and they can wear you out, and you don't realize it until you just take a breath. You're like, oh wow, this feels good.
Yeah.
So I had no responsibilities for like 11 or 12 days. Incredible.
Had to feel good.
Minus the family, but yeah, it felt great.
Minus the dogs trying to tear up the dang windshield.
Huh?
Yeah. Or Charlie trying to get Charlie out from the subterranean complex there in the vehicle. Huh?
They're the best. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how long have you been here in Colorado Springs then?
I got here on the 28th of August, one day before our 1 year birthday.
Okay.
So today is October 14th, I believe. Yeah.
So you got a full about a full seasons oh no, you just got here.
Yeah.
Right,
so what's fascinating is in September we got our first thing of snow already.
Snow, right?
So we had 5 inches of snow. Day before it's 80 degrees. The next day it's snow. Welcome to Colorado.
Welcome
and then
to
we've
Colorado,
had some unique hail as well. Any climb in place, right?
Yep, that's
any
it.
Climb in place.
That's it.
Yep.
So you mentioned something about taking that 10 to 11 day break, mental break, and another thing that we talked about or we learned today was that management of time and because then mistakes get made and stuff like that, or family stuff. What does Scott Stalker do to kind of take those mental breaks, to take that to that position of this is what is your time?
Yeah.
Look, is it the gym? Is it sometimes you read? I mean, what?
It gets challenging when you have children, young children, but I think you have to dedicate and focus. And so my wife and I, we have this exact discussion because there is no more important resource than time, and you don't get it back. Mm-hmm. So usually Sunday is my planning day. I review all of my events that I've got coming up. I think about what I need to say if it's a speaking public event or a one-on-one engagement. Or if I'm just receiving, are the read-aheads. So Sunday is preparation day. I PT 4 days a week. I used to do this in a manner where I'd be the first guy up in the morning and PT that way, but I learned something from a mentor of mine, Command Sergeant Major Pat McCauley. We all know him and love him. And he said, hey, if it's the most important thing of the day, you do it during the day. And so now I actually will go and put it on my calendar, and during the day, I will go PT 4 days a week, and that's something I do. But it gets more challenging. I'm starting up another graduate program, just more of a hobby for me that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But I think the other part too is you've got to set the example for your children. Yeah. And so they need to see that work ethic. They need to see that education matters because you can tell them to read the book, or you can read the book with them. And so I've taken my daughters on several hikes. We've gone out and done that.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's great.
Just the other day, we were at the gym. We go to the gym right here. I can bring my girls with me. We're in the pool. It was just incredible. It was fun. So, but I think too that you don't need as much of a mental break if you don't view this as something that you have to do.
Right.
But it's more, I get to do this, and so this is an honor.
Yeah.
I fought to get this position,
Yeah.
and I'm going to fight hard to keep it.
Yeah.
So there are need for mental breaks, and we're approaching the holiday season here soon, and I'm going to look at that and when can I take some more time off. But it's necessary for all of us. Yeah.
So we got to talk about the 800-pound elephant that comes with being a master gunnery sergeant.
Yeah.
So you are kind of a monumental guy in the Marine Corps because in the Marine Corps the command tracks are normally sergeants majors and the staff positions are normal master gunnery sergeants.
Yeah.
You and I first met when I took over as a SEAC, and you were my J2 senior enlisted leader on the Joint Staff. You weren't there very long because you got selected and you took over as the command senior enlisted leader of Defense Intelligence Agency. some might have said that was an anomaly, but for Scott Stalker, that was just the beginning, because then Admiral Rogers selected you for U.S. Cyber Command. General Nakasone said you were one of the best senior enlisted leaders that he had ever been around, you know, and here's a Army 4-star general that, and then, you know, General Raymond selects you for this job here, all as a master gunnery sergeant. So kind of talk about, you know, how we've known each other. I never once looked at you, I never even once looked at you as a Marine, other than when you wore those cute little PT shorts when we PT together, you know. I mean,
they are cute, yeah.
You know, but are we beyond that yet? I mean, is there just some people out there that just can't get over themselves, and legacy is where they're living at, and potentially they're irrelevant with that kind of thought? What are your thoughts on that?
So I won't BS you. We're not beyond that yet. But that is more of a terrestrial mindset.
Yeah.
I've had meetings where I've been in the room with General Berger, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, both Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Green and Black, have allowed me to compete for these positions.
Yeah.
But there's that shadow of those, you know, the folks on the Twitter muscles, as I'll call them, that have their opinions and thoughts. And at the end of the day, I don't let it bother me anymore. I don't really care, because I can control this, and I can perform. I can love my teammates and do the best I can for them. And I think over time, as we look at these warfighting domains, and if we really think of us as senior enlisted advisors as well, it's hard to advise a commander if you don't understand your warfighting domain, if you don't have a level of expertise, if you don't understand operations. And so I'm not saying that the Corps is going to change this, but if you look at, I forgot the acronym, but in Iraq, our soft component, the senior enlisted leader today is a master gunnery sergeant. We just had our SOC South senior enlisted leader. He was a master gunnery sergeant. And so in SOF, in intel, in cyber, and kind of space, expertise matters. Leadership matters, always. And I don't think you have to sacrifice that. You can certainly understand what your domain is and your operations, and still lead and set that example. So we've got work to do. And I think you know, we've had this discussion with other services as well. You know, Chief Wright and I, when he was the Chief Master in the Air Force, we talked about it all the time. And none of them actually gave a damn. They said, hey, you know,
I never gave a
perform, then come to the table.
So I gotta have a follow-on question for that. So you were a finalist to replace me as the SEAC. How do you think that would have went over with the Marine Corps? Now, understanding Ron Green Ron Green was never about that. Troy Black is never about that. But all of a sudden, the SEAC is a former master gunnery sergeant. Well, I would have loved it. You know, I'd have been sitting, Ron and I would have been, you know, at Fobb Brewery up there in DuPont, Washington, drinking dang craft beer, saying, "You go, Stalker." You know?
That was an incredible experience, and the general officers I spoke to include the current chairman, I couldn't say enough of the process. It was professionally. They picked the right guy in 𝘬𝘓𝘕𝘓𝘕𝘓𝘕. It would have it would have been interesting to see the Marine Corps Times the next day. But
you made that.
For a good reason, though.
And you know, I think at the end of the day, Marines are professionals, and 99% of them would have said, "Yeah, so what?" You know, if he was the right individual, guy or gal, bring him on board. And so, hey, it didn't work out that way, and so I got this opportunity. So sometimes, you know, and let's be frank, I was bummed for about a half a minute, and then I found out who they picked, and I said, absolutely got the right individual. Now let's get to work. So
that's called being a professional, brother.
It is being a professional.
It's not personal, it's business. You don't get selected. Hey, I was the SEAC, senior enlisted guy in the DOD, and my record on slates was 5-4. And one of the times I didn't get selected was by a guy named Dunford. The same guy that selected me to be the SEAC. It ain't personal, it's business. And people that take it personal probably shouldn't be getting those jobs anyways.
They shouldn't. And I think anyone in these positions needs to look at our current SEAC and do everything we can to support him.
Absolutely.
And our service SEAs as well, and the combatant commands. We got to work together.
I agree with you. The right man's got the job right now.
He does, absolutely.
You know? I mean, and I'm not saying that because I'm on an Air Force base and he's in the Air Force. But truly a joint warfighter, truly a guy that gets it.
Let me tell you how amazing.
And personal friend of both of you and me. You know?
Absolutely. So day 2 on the job, we were burying my brother-in-law at Arlington. My brother-in-law was shot in the head in Iraq. He lived for quite some time. And then actually yesterday was the anniversary of his passing. I told SEAC 𝘬𝘓𝘕𝘓𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 He said, clear my schedule, I'm going to come out. And he did. It was rainy out. It was a crappy day. Him and General Nakasone came and honored my brother-in-law.
That's awesome.
And Janet came as well with him.
Yeah.
So he's a class act. And listen, I'm not here to promote the SEAC, but I love everything about him. And then, we had our event in Germany together, another PT session, and I think he tried to kill me then. Maybe he knew why I was interviewing. He said, "Hey, man, just kill this guy." Running up the mountains.
I did bring that up today. That SEAC 3 and SEAC 4 took the U.S. Space Command guy out on a run. In what was the name of that area down there?
Is it Wiesbaden?
No, it's way in the south. The resort area of Germany, and we were up in the mountains, and all of a sudden, CZ and I had to go hunting for Stalker, because you were somewhere wrestling with a
I was doing pull-ups on a tree or something. That's my story. That's my story. No, it was great. So, you look across the Joint Force, man, we've got great leaders, and I think the key to the positions that we're in here is there's a lot of conversation of the diversity and inclusion. What I can control is opportunities.
Yeah.
So the folks at Space Command that the services provide me, making sure they get opportunities to do these things and to hear these conversations, to be a part of the discussions, and truly to contribute to the whole Space Command decision-making process.
So do you think in the future we could see a space warrior as U.S. Central Command Senior Enlisted Leader or U.S. Indo-Pacific Command?
Yeah, I think so, without question. Just like I could see a shipmate in the Coast Guard being a Combat Command CSEL, without question.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's ready for it. Not everyone wants to do that because there's a level of dedication you've got to have. But certainly they can. And I think the key, and hopefully folks that are listening to this, is when you have your heart set on those things, is to find a mentor and to you talked about this, to visualize it and then to go after it.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are attainable goals. And I'm here where I am today. This isn't it for me. I have a lot of desires and passions and things that I'm going to achieve outside of uniform. And so those folks that may not like the Master Gunnery Sergeant thing, they may be hired as a janitor later. Working for me.
That's all we talk about too. Is you never know who's going to be in front of you at that hiring table. But I mean, I get to see on the other side and traveling with John and hear stories and stuff like that. But were you as a Marine? Being here, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, I didn't really care for Marines a whole lot, but just the camaraderie. I mean, the branch stuff. But I think it's awesome that you are here, not only as coming from the positions that you came from and the job that you have. And so that was going to be my next question. Is obviously I know that a lot of my friends that are Marines look like when we do the shows and stuff, they're like, oh, that's awesome, that's great. We're taking over. I'm like, I wouldn't go that far, but that was my question. Is what's next? I mean, you just got here, which I know there's a ton of work, and the work sounds phenomenal and fun as you all are pulling this together. But what are some of those things and dreams and maybe goals that you've thought about out of uniform? Because we always talk about a bit of a transition piece, and I hit you up on this a little bit before, but you weren't ready for it. But now we're what does that look like in, I don't know, 5 to 10 years or whenever that time comes? Yeah, well, so specifically, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunities that are out there. But similar to the track you're taking, I think that the admirals and the generals that are usually falling in on a lot of these senior chairman positions and that sort of thing, they probably should look out because I plan on taking a few of those from them. And so all I control is the performance today and the things that I'm trying to attain in the future. I don't have any specifics, but I've had some really good conversations. Matter of fact, there was, and I won't get into too much detail here, but there was a CEO who called me before I interviewed for this. And I had already made the decision to do the interview and honor that commitment to General Raymond, and he had offered me a position with him. I still love what I do, and so this is not about money. Obviously, there's more money on the outside world, and those opportunities usually come with performance and relationships and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to keep all the doors open. Yeah. I think you're going to absolutely crush it out there. I mean, and I do think y'all need to watch out.
So that brings up a point. So Ron and I, as you know, we operate a lot with our service members, whether they're getting ready to retire or they're getting out after first term, transitioning service members. And one of our goals is to make sure they retain focus and purpose through transition, during the transition process, and into post-military kind of employment. Because we know when people start losing purpose, it can go south for them in a hurry, and there can be drugs involved or alcohol involved and firearms, and it could really go bad. So you're standing up U.S. Space Command. It's only a year old now. How focused within the command are you still on that service members are going to lead this organization and making sure that they are a service member for life, and that you're allowing them to continue to have that purpose and taking care of them through the transition process? Because within a new warfighting command, you're moving out or moving up, whichever the case may be, you know. And they're on the periphery. There may not seem like a lot of time for that kind of stuff. But have you and General Dickinson thought through that about how you're going to take care of your transitioning service members?
We haven't had that specific discussion yet, but one of the things I'm really proud about is the camaraderie we built here.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, we formed up and celebrated the United States Navy birthday.
Yeah.
A few weeks prior, we all got together and celebrated the United States Air Force's birthday.
Yeah.
We've gone to the club right across the street here, a large portion of the command, and had Boss's Night, or First Friday, I think it was called, and that sort of thing. So we have built the camaraderie. Most of the people here at the Combatant Command headquarters are fairly senior, at least E6 for the most part. And so we're dealing more with retirees, vice transitioning. So we've got to look at how do we handle that. But it's not let me be honest, I haven't had that specific discussion with him yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. Well, no, but it's legit, because one of our desired end states is to return a service member back to society a better product, whether it's 4 years or 40 years.
That's right.
And so it's a focus of ours. And what I've had this discussion with the service SEAs is, I promise you, who you give us, we're going to make a better product. And that's why fitness is important. Because I can't have the United States Army sending their soldiers here and then they go back looking like a donut. I think SMA is going to, get on the phone and yell at me.
But we're going to talk about that in a minute,
right?
Yeah. Because
we're not
there's some fallacies about operating in space, but we'll get into that in rapid fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about donuts. No.
We're going to talk about donuts too. All right.
Okay.
So speaking of that, should we hit him with some rapid fire?
Let's go. I'm ready.
All right, brother. You brought it up, so I got to tell you.
Yep.
So, when I sat on the White House lawn and for an event, and I was sitting next to the chairman, and the president got up there and said, we're going to create a space force. And then we had the mission of, how do we determine space capability? So we came up with U.S. Space Command, the organization that you're in charge of, But, you look at some of the social media memes, and you look at how people think. So in space, you're weightless, you know? So if you're weightless in space, who gives a shit if you're a fat ass,
Yeah.
I mean, is there a need in U.S. Space Com for a fitness program, truly a fitness program, or a body composition program?
Yes, and all jokes aside, as we had that discussion, I'm really focused on, man, how much can I bench press in space? That's what I want to know, right? Can I get a 4-figure bench? In all honesty, today our space is dealing with folks that are on the ground and that sort of thing. I guess my replacement, when they start dealing with that, they got to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But again, back to the science. Honestly, fit is going to make you more lethal.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where you are. In space, we see that the astronauts have to do some kind of physical fitness, because you have bone density loss, you have shrink. You literally shrink. Your muscles can atrophy, and so it may even actually be more important. Maybe the folks that go into space have to be more fit. I don't know.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting. So there's, for our audience, and obviously, we have a Marine here sitting with us, so I know there's a lot of people that want to know, when do those positions open up for the space door gunner?
The space door gunner, yeah. I don't know. I'll be the first in line. I was actually a machine gunner on a CH-46, which is about the oldest thing we have. And so, I don't know. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Shooting lasers and everything.
Right.
Like that.
I just asked that question because I could ask whatever, and then last night I got a couple. I was like, okay, all right. But that might have been the Space Force, your command. I don't know, right?
It might have been. I don't know, man. But that'd be pretty cool. What would that tab look like?
Well, there's a patch. I could actually get you one. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I bet. those things, that's a lot of the social media things that people design. They're
Yeah.
hilarious. I love them.
is.
They're
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
I heard a lot of it when I was. I'm not on much of the social media except for my professional pages now. But to see the memes that were created about me being this stalker in space and the Marine, I love them. I love them. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Yeah.
Hey, so when I was the SEAC, I tried to really be inclusive, and I tried to make it fun for us with the Defense Senior Enlisted Leader Council. And one of the things I did, you remember, I had Colton Smith that worked for me.
Oh, yeah.
Who's been a guest on the Ron and John Show.
Yep.
Ultimate Fighter Season 14 champion, professional mixed martial artist, professional entrepreneur, and now he's in Joint Special Operations Command doing a lot of stuff. But I had him and my public affairs guy, Rob Couture.
Oh, I know where we're going.
And we had a Combatant Command virtual MMA tournament.
Yeah.
And so based on the opinions of Smith and Couture of these Combatant Command senior enlisted leaders in the ass-kicking department, it was two would go against each other, and then it was a bracket format like March Madness,
Yep.
So you ended up in the finals.
I did.
So that meant that Smith and Couture thought highly of your ass-kicking abilities.
Yeah.
But then you got drubbed in the finals by one Pat McCauley that you talked earlier.
Yeah.
So now we've got 12 combatant commands
11.
now? 11
Yep.
still?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. How do you rank now in the ass-kicking department, do you think? If we had to do another virtual combatant command MMA tournament, you think you'd make it back to the finals?
I think the smartest thing that they would do is say, here's your winner, Stalker wins, and the rest of them can fight for second. That's how I look at everything. They fight for second place, I'm going to win it all.
Never at a loss for self-confidence coming from a
absolutely.
Marine, right?
And I had to fight Dave Clark.
I know.
That is a big, how did I win that one? I don't know. He is a big dude.
Well, I think,
But he's a teddy bear.
hey, he's a big, tall guy, and long reach, but he might have been a muscle car too, a big engine, little gas tank.
That would have been a good one, because
Dave, I love you, brother. So hey, don't kick my ass when you see me, all right? But yeah.
Well,
so go ahead, Ron.
The last one is you like to stay fit. I know you have a history in powerlifting and competitions and stuff like that. And
Plus, he's been to Harvard.
But yeah, I mean,
Kick
that's
your own
like,
ass, man.
I mean, that still doesn't compute. Harvard and Marines, just like I mean, still in uniform. I mean, I know a lot of great ones inside and out. But what's your favorite cheat meal? Like, I mean.
Oh yeah, we got to hear this.
I want to know, like, when Scott Stalker sits down and says, "You know what? I'm gonna send it."
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Bad chow in moderation, there, war fighters. Okay, in moderation. Hit us, brother.
You can't get this size by just eating freaking.
I know, them guns are purty, man, but they ain't made by cheeseburgers, all right?
So let's say I'm on an island and I get one meal, right? What's it going to be? I would really go for one of those like 2-pound cheeseburgers, just a monster with bacon and avocado. That's kind of my thing. But if you have more than one a year, you will actually feel your heart stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the cheat meal. I love good carne asada as well, the tacos. But I don't have such a sweet tooth. I'm not mint chocolate chip ice cream, but we don't have that at the house. So yeah.
For a reason.
You had me at bacon, you lost me at avocado, brother. Yeah.
You're not an avocado guy.
Oh no, and I've been married to a Mexican for 37 years, man. So I mean, I just so, but
Healthy
hey, brother,
fats, healthy fats.
That's right.
Healthy fats.
So we wish we could stay here all day, brother. We'd love to chat with you.
Yeah.
Pull a keg of beer in here and we'll just talk all day. I mean,
well, I may have a
how
special
do you think
gift
General
for you.
Dickinson would think, here in the SpaceCom headquarters that we're, having a keg of beer and doing a podcast?
He'd be disappointed he wasn't invited.
There we go.
But Scott, brother, you are a true professional. You have shown time and time again what persistence, hard work, dedication, and just being a true professional will do, and it'll pay off. And I will tell you, I mean, these generals and admirals keep hiring you, man. So I don't know what's going to happen. If all of a sudden we have U.S. subterranean command, you may find yourself going from space to 500 feet underground, We'll see.
You never
we'll
know.
see what happens. But
keep the options open.
And you and Mallory are personal friends of Sandra and mine. So God bless you, brother. Thanks for being on the Ron and John Show again. It's been an honor, man.
Thank you.
No, man, haters are gonna hate. you know, as they say, and but just to see you resolve, man, and just like you keep your head down and you keep out shining. And I mean, you hold these positions that I mean, no one can hold us, you know, a candle to, and it's incredible. I'm excited to see where you're at now, to know where you're at now, and I'm excited to see where you're going. And I know that with the transition piece, that's something that's important to you because it's something that's your people important to you. And it's
Ron,
honor,
so
man. It really is.
Our audience ought to tune in because you're going to see footage of our PT session this morning.
Yes.
You know, and it was ugly.
It was
you
good,
know,
yeah,
but it was good. You're going to see some stuff of us out visiting U.S. Space Command troops and everything. And then, you know, the biggest thing is we're getting ready to do a town hall here after lunch. And,
absolutely.
And we'll get to address a bunch of these space warriors out here. So,
we got the hangar set aside for you. Yep.
The whole
awesome.
hangar.
Whole hangar.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming here, and I really appreciate. You know, we want to have more leadership, both retired and active duty, coming out to see what we're doing here. So thank you so much.
All right, so we gotta do a group boom to the camera.
We gotta do a group.
You know, Ron and I, we have this thing. You know, we do our little saying, and it's boom. You ready to give a boom, man?
I'm gonna break the camera. Yeah.
Holy shit! Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back here, bro. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for watching the Ron and John Show.
We'll see you next week, Thursday, at 4 p.m. Pacific. Tune in on Facebook Live. See you then.
Boom!
The Ron and John Show is brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, where we can assist you with all your home buying and refinance needs. Since we're licensed in all 50 states, we can ETS, PCS, or retire wherever you go. Check out our education classes at 𝘲𝘠𝘕bootcamp.com for our free classes, and you can also visit our website at veteranslendinggroup.com. Make sure to follow The Ron and John Show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, folks, we hope you enjoyed our guest this week.
Thanks for tuning into the Ron and John Show, and we'll see you next week.
Boom!